Good evening and welcome to the Rewind Show. Hashtag 159. I'm Steve Brown in my usual place up here in North Yorkshire, and Brent Peters is over there in his usual spot in Bacup. How are you doing?
I'm absolutely fantastic, but slightly wrong there. I'm not in my usual spot.
No, not exactly.
I just thought
usually you've got Matty James. Is it Matty James's top behind you?
England top, yeah, but I've decided to move vantage points today.
You're actually looking. This is probably the best position that you've actually been in, to be honest with you, because
I get in plenty of different positions. Me, you know that, Steve.
I don't want to know what you do at the weekend. But yeah, them lovely trophies over your left-hand shoulder, absolutely perfect on the bar.
Yeah, let's so we can identify them. We've got the Edwin Crook Memorial Shield which has been donated from the family of our late President Edwin Crook, and the first winner of that, as we all know, is our Joy Fallon.
Yeah.
We've also got on there the Edward Case trophy that we so proudly have won back-to-back years. And the lads have made history for Bacup Borough Football Club on that achievement. And then, as we all know, on Monday evening, our under-23s with Ryan Russell at the helm and Alan Taylor and Andy Pilling did a fantastic job by going to. The final was at Darwin, going to Darwin to the Anchor Ground and beating Ashton Town. Was it 3-1 on the night? I think it was. Yeah. I think it was 3-1 on the night. To lift the Galaxy Lancashire League Under-23 Cup.
Yeah.
So there we go. We've got an hat-trick of trophies, or 3 trophies on the bar and pride of place.
Yeah. Well, I'll show the goals after, because I've actually got the goals from that game. So we'll have a chat about that later on. And this week, you've had a busy week, Brent, because I know what you've been doing, because you've been on Radio Lancashire last night with Andy Bays. You're also with Paul Weller from Colne. And is it Tony Esker from Forward Amateurs? Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, we were on the Sports Hour last night, and it was quite a good round the table chat.
I don't think they'll be inviting you back somehow.
Listen, what for?
If you've
listen, don't you worry about that. I used to be regular on. Listen, believe you me, Ian McGarry, who was on there every Friday night, said a lot worse than I said last night. So you don't worry about that, right? All I just happened in the meat of in the passion of the moment. All I used was and to be credit to Andy Baines, who was absolutely fantastic on working the buttons, is he corrected it, you know, and like he said off air, it was me and Mal really, but it was a good job I didn't put the another word in front of what I said.
Yeah, well, I've been speaking to Andy Baines this afternoon. He goes, my pleasure. Is welcome back anytime. So there you go. You're not been barred from BBC Radio Lancashire.
Listen, Steve, you know what it's like. I mean, you know, I wish they'd bring it back actually, because BBC Radio Lancashire renowned on a Friday evening for always the sports hour. You know, and it was the non-league. When I say the sports hour, it was sports. It were a couple of hours sports, but there was a non-league hour in it. And you know, my old sort of like partner, if you will, when I say partner, you know, in football, ex-Darwin manager Ian McGarry were a co-presenter on the show. And, you know, he never used to pull any punches, and it used to but it were kind of it was good for the region. It was good for for getting everybody getting exposure, and it was quite an interesting show that it was on for quite a while. It was the main producer of that, the presenter, should I say, not producer, was Gary Hickson.
Yeah.
But it's like anything with BBC at minute. Cutbacks, and that was one of the cutbacks, which is a bit sad, really, because every week they'd have. Like I said, Ian McGarry were in the studio with Gary Hickson, and they used to have studio guests, and quite regular I'd be on, and then there'd be other managers from other clubs in the region, they'd be on, and then they'd do a telephone. You could have a guest appearance, but you might be on the telephone. But it was interesting, from all different.
But it is a shame though, because you look at the northwest, the region. It's an hotbed, isn't it, for non-league football, and it should be represented.
Yeah, I honestly believe that. Yeah, that's right. And you can't. You're not telling me that they've not. They haven't. I know they haven't. They haven't knocked it off because the numbers weren't there. Because I know the ratings would have been there.
Yeah.
Because it was fantastic. It used to start with, you'd have the EFL. They'd be featuring before the non-league hour. They'd be featuring, your Blackpools, your Blackburn Rovers, your Burnleys, all the senior clubs from the region. And they'd do exactly the same. I'd be going in there at say 8 o'clock because the non-league hour would be 8 till 9, but 7 till 8 I'd be featuring the clubs in the football league, from the region. So when we'd be passing like ships in the night, like you get something like Martin Dobson coming one way, who's just been on as a guest on the non-league, on the football league part of it, and then I'd be going in on the non-league part of it. And that's how it were, but it were always interesting. It were interesting. You could sit, could be driving your car and have it and be tuned in, or sat at home with your headphones on and listening for a couple of hours of a good, solid, in-depth opinions of the football.
But it was a great show last night because I was tuned in. And if people want to go and listen, I think I put the links on our social media, but you can go along to BBC Sounds, Radio Lancashire, last night's show with Andy Bays. But it was good to have a contrast. They did really well, and Andy Bays had, Tony Escott, forward amateurs, been there for many years, yourself, and then Paul Weller, who's pretty fresh, just one season at the non-league, and it was great to have a difference of opinion and getting people's evaluation of what non-league is to them, or how they've kind of learnt things in non-league. I know Paul Weller was saying he'd made loads of mistakes because he was, he didn't know the game, did he? He was coming into a surroundings and he didn't know of.
Well, yeah, that's right. I mean, obviously he knows the game. He knows the game. What I think what Paul were trying to say is coming into non-league and managing in non-league is totally different from being involved in the football league. Like we all know, in the football league, if you're a player in the football league and you've been, you're mollycoddled, you looked after, everything's on hand for you, everything, literally everything's on hand, right? So when you come into non-league football, as you know, it's totally different. He's doing what I have to do here at Bacup, where it's basically, they've no kit man or anything like that. So when it comes to a match day, he's not just picking the team and going and looking at and scouting, the players on that situation. He's not actually just doing that. He's kind of going out, he's scouting, and then he's going out and he's talking to players, trying to attract them to his club, and then he's having to, on a match day, he's having to arrange all the transport, and then he's the kit man as well and packing the kit. And that's welcome to the real world of non-league. That's basically what it's about. And then on top of that, like, I I know lots and lots. I mean, we touched on it last night on air. I remember, I think, Big Vince Overson, I think one of the first jobs that Big Vince took when he come out of the Football League, he was managing Ramsbottom, but he didn't last long. And it weren't that he didn't last long because he weren't suited to non-league or anything like that, or he were clueless or anything like that, because he heckers clueless. What it were, it's the frustration, because in Football League, you know, when you go into training in the morning, you've got everything, you've got all what you want before you. You can work on things. You've got your full squad there, right? In non-league, it doesn't happen. You know, this is the frustration. This is what we touched on kind of last night. What happens in non-league, it's a training night, because people are working and they've all got different kind of jobs, and then they've got an home life where they say, oh, I can train Thursday, but I can't train Tuesday because my missus is at night school or whatever. You know, so I've got to look after the kids. So you go to training, you'll have your bag of balls, you'll have all your cones, you'll set things up, you'll plan your sessions, and then what happens is, you're trying to work on, say, your midfield, but your entire midfield don't turn up because it just so happens that circumstances, you know, you'll be wanting to work on the old team and the old shape of your team, but then you find out that you can't work on the old shape of your team because, you know, you might expect like 18 players at your training session, a coaching session, and you've only got 10 at your coaching session. You know, it's so frustrating. So in the end, I remember speaking to, you know, it's a while ago is this now, but I remember speaking to Big Vince, and Vince said to me, oh, it worked for me. You know, he said, I plan my sessions to do this, and he said, if players can't be committed, he said, why should I bother? And he's right, because he's a professional. Yeah. You know, he's there to give his, you know, his professional services over, but this is the non-league world. And on the flip side of that, when people used to, I mean, it doesn't happen as much now, but when people used to, people still talk about it and say, oh, what's it like playing under Brent Peters? You know, does he still keep you in the changing rooms for an hour after the game and all that? But it's crazy, because they think that when we are in a changing room after the game, all we're doing is just lambasting play, but it's not. That's the only time. And I used to say, look, you know, we're, you know, like other managers and other coaches, they're professional in what they do. They're not amateur, they're professional. You know, and you're trying to portray a professional image. So when you go in a changing room and you play a game, that's the time when you've got everybody together, right? So if they've kind of made errors in the game, right, when you normally in the Football League, right, what would happen is that would be addressed at training. When you come into training, that would be gone through. You look at the videos. The players will see the videos, and then they'll go out on the training ground and correct what they've done wrong. Now, in non-league, you know, certainly at our level, you know, down lower reaches of non-league, that doesn't happen, because the only time, if you leave it till training, like I've just mentioned, you're going to end up with a situation where you might want to talk to your back four because they've kind of, you know, committed harry-carry, and you want to correct that situation, right? But when you get to training on the Tuesday or the Thursday, your back four might not be there, or you might get one of your back four there, you might get two of your back four there, so you can't go through it. And the person who's probably been the culprit, who's made the mistake, probably isn't there. So the only time that you can address these situations is in the changing room at full time, before they go home, because you've got everybody on hand. But the trouble is, when that situation were arising, even back in the day, and it doesn't happen at every club, but at some clubs, you know what it's like. You know, and I'm not decrying anybody here. It's all about where you've come from. I mean, don't forget, when I've come into non-league football, I've come from a Football League environment. So that's my mentality. You know, but some people haven't come from a Football League environment. They've come from a kind of an amateur environment. But when you've come from a Football League environment, you know, you want to be addressing your players while it's fresh in their minds. So when you're doing that, you know, they're all sat there, they're ready, they're listening. But the trouble is, the clubs where you're at when you're playing away from home, you sometimes used to get a knock on the door and say, are you coming, lads? Come on, we need them showers too. You get your showers, your chips are going cold. And I remember Andy Hill, that's when I nearly blinking swore last night, because you get like, I remember Andy Hill were my coach, and we were at Runcorn Linnets. It weren't Runcorn Town, it were Runcorn Linnets. And that's exactly what happened. The woman's come to the door of the changing room, she's hammering on the door. Hey lads, come on, your chips are going cold. You know, and Andy will really flip because he's raging with something that's gone wrong in the game. And he said, they will get the blinking chips, they'll get the chips or the bleeding head. You know, you get what I'm saying? Because but that, all I'm trying to get at is, because you've got them all together, then that is the time to address things. If you wait till training night, you'll end up with egg on your face because half the players won't be at training, or the ones that you want to address or go through won't be at training. And if you're not careful, you'll then turn up and wreck up on a Saturday for another game, and the same problems are unfolding because you've not really rectified them or addressed them.
And like you say, you forget about it, so you've got to address it while it's still fresh in your mind.
Yeah, exactly. So
I thought it was interesting, and you know, people can listen on sounds. It's there for 30 days, so take yourself along to BBC Radio Lancs. Sounds for that. A lot of activity on socials this afternoon, Brent. Lateral movements, people promoted. It's all taking off. You know, we've got new faces, new clubs in the building in the North West Counties Division 1 North, and we say goodbye to a few as well. Ilkley Town and Shelley. They've made the lateral move across to the Tool Station League in Yorkshire.
Well, the positive of that one, the positive of that one, no disrespect to the people of Ilkley because they're fantastic people. The managers are, you know, the coaches are a fantastic coach. The people there are brilliant. But you know what I'm going to say, don't you? It's one less blinking plastic pitch that we've got to contend with.
It is a very good side as well, and I'm sure they'll do well next season. Will Ilkley over there?
No doubts about it. I mean, listen, I'm not underestimating any leagues, but Congleton, you know, everybody last year, everybody like looked at Congleton and thought, you know, why are they going into the league they're going in? But they knew what they were doing because let's be honest. The league that they were in, the North West Counties League, I've said it before, I'll say it again, it's a really, really tough competitive league. And it's a tough league to get out of. And Congleton realised that, and, you know, they've been around the North West Counties a long time, since, you know, the days when they were in the Evo stick. And they struggled to, you know, kind of, they were so near yet so far and struggled to get out of it. But the simple fact is, when it come, they opted to, you know, apply for a lateral move and give it a go in another league. But when you analyse that league, it's probably nowhere near as competitive as the North West Counties, and it's proved it. I'm not trying to like water down their achievement, but what I'm trying to say is they set the stall out and they thought we'll have a better chance.
We saw it as well, didn't we? With talking of the Tool Station, we saw it with Campion. You know, Campion made the same move. They did lateral. They went across back to Yorkshire and got promotion at a canter last season.
Yeah, well, you know, it's all about opinions. But when I've watched football over there, you know, and you watch football over here in the counties, and you can see it. And you know, I've got to be honest. We're on the border here. And it's crossed my mind a few times, you know, dare I make that, you know, should I do it? Lateral movement, because, you know, there's no doubts about it. You know, it's a really, really tough league. It's not easy in the North West Counties. There's some fantastic sides and it's all really competitive. And I'm not saying that their league isn't, but you know, there's a lot of leagues out there that's absolutely nowhere near as what the North West Counties is like.
No, definitely not. Clubs coming in. We've got Maghull. We've got another trip to the seaside. Thornton Cleveland's as well. They're the new sides that are joining us.
Yeah, it's good to go to new places. I mean, Maghull, back in the day when when I first joined Baycut Borough. You know, we played McGull. McGull, you know, they were, you know, a good club. You know, if my memory serves me rightly, it's a pitch between, you know, it's in a cricket. There's cricket there as well, and it used to be. I mean, you can't do it now with ground grading as it's gone, but used to be like all separated off with rope round it, and you know, I can remember it back in the day. You know, so I have been to McGull. I mean, obviously, we're now with the modern day ground grading and everything. It will have changed, and I probably don't recognise it. But it'd be good to go back there, and you know what you get. You know what you get on Merseyside anyway. You've just lost one. You know, super club in terms of South Liverpool and a super team, you know, but you're going to get, you know, you're going to get another team in from that area, and you know what you're going to get in that area. You're getting teams that, you know, no matter what anybody says about you know, they talk about the Scousers and this, that, and the other. One thing's a stonewall certainty when you play the guys from Liverpool or Liverpool area is you're going to have. You know, it's a competitive game because there's no shirkers down there. You know,
you're gonna have to work for every single point, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you know, it's interesting. You know, it just adds. It's not the same old going into the new season. It won't be the same old. You've got new faces, so it adds a bit of spice to the you know, the competition.
Yeah, and also Droylsden and Main Road. They're joining us as well for next season.
Well, Main Road's always been you know, again, you know, we've crossed swords many times with Main Road. A couple of my former players last season were involved at Main Road. Reece Welsh, I think, were the manager for a time, but I think he did step down near the end of the season. You know. Yeah, and Pete Monteith, the goalkeeper who we had here, we're playing at Main Road. You know, and again, you know, Main Road's always been it's a good club. It's you know, the good people. You know, and again, you know, the facilities are, you know, the pitch anyway. The playing surface is usually quite good. Yeah, so you know, again, that's interesting. And Droylsden, well, what can we say about Droylsden? I mean. I feel for Droylsden a little bit. I don't feel for Droylsden. That's probably a wrong word to say, but I feel for the guy who were representing Droylsden that obviously has made a bit of a, you know, mistake in his calculations on administration, and that they didn't represent themselves in the Macron final, which they should have done. You know, Chariton had been knocked out with him, and Chariton got a reprieve through default. You know, now it's all right. You know, people can think, "Oh, happy days," but there's somebody got to live with that. You know, and it's not easy, and it's easy to happen. Believe you me. You know, if you don't dot your I's, cross your T's, and really dig into and picking a phone up and speaking to people, you can easily come a cropper. Seriously, it's not.
That person's usually a volunteer as well, Brent, who gives a lot of his time and effort to the club.
Well, do you know what? I spoke to a member of the league management committee of the North West Counties, and well, I'll be honest, it was John Deal, and I'm having a conversation, just like football conversation. I was asking how he was, John, and we got talking, and this came up in conversation, and I said, you know, I feel for him, you know, but I feel for the guy who did it, and he said, Brent, you know, he's a really genuinely nice guy, you know, but he's got to, because let's be honest, I mean, they might be back there next year and have a chance at the final again next year. But who knows? You know, it can take you several years before you get the chance to go again to a cup final.
Yeah.
You know, so the chances it were there, and then it goes, and it's gone on a technicality, and some poor person's got to, you know, got to live with that, and it's not good. And you know, I strongly recommend that the FA, because it's not the North West Counties League, it's nothing to do with the North West Counties League, but it's to do with the administration side on things on the FA. On it's crazy what goes on with it. It's not straightforward. You should be able to go on a site. And straight away, you know, whatever it says on that site is 110% kosher, right? But it isn't. because I said it a few weeks ago on here. Kyle Siddall was showing 10 bookings, so Kyle Siddall should have been suspended. There's no two ways about it. 10 bookings. But when I go in, so if I don't bother to pick a phone up and delve into it and ask them to scrutinise it and look at it, I could have been suspending Kyle, taking him out and saying, well, you're suspended. You can't play, because the FA always say you can't wait for the FA to tell you, because the onus is always on the club. Yeah. It's not on the FA. They'll tell you that. If you say, well, I never got notification, nobody notified me, the FA will turn around and say, well, it's not for us to notify you. You should be telling us. You keep records, so you should be on top of your job, right? So there's no excuses. The FA will just bury their head in the sand. They just won't accept it, any responsibility. So the simple fact is, what you've got to do, like it showed Kyle, 10 bookings. But when I rang up and said, can you check in, and went through, said, no, he's actually only got 9, but he's got 10 bookings, but he's only got 9 that count, because one of them was in a pre-season friendly. So he's got booked. So even though they'll still count it on you totting up, and they still they'll still fine you for the booking, right? But they won't put it in as they'll knock it off in terms of what I'm trying to tell you, in terms of 10. So why not show 9, right? Because that one that he's got, what doesn't count, for me, shouldn't be on the site. It shouldn't. No. If it doesn't count, don't put it on the site. Or there should be more in-depth thinking of how they're going to do it. I mean, there's another one, like sin bins. Sin bins don't count on you. They'll count on you totting up. They do count on you totting up. Instead of things being simplified, it's not simplified. Yeah. And you've got to understand, the secretarial job of any football club at any level is just, it used to be a job what people had enjoyed doing and feel part of it. I mean, I can remember the late Frank Manning here. He loved it. But as soon as it went more into computers and there's more and more emphasis with different things that you've got to do, he just couldn't cope with it. He couldn't do it. And that's why, I took the pressure off him and I started to get involved in it. But it's horrendous. It really is. You need to have a lot of time on your hand to do that job 100% fully. I mean, here, I've broke it down. I've brought the tasks of a secretary down. Like, for instance, the part where they've got to confirm with the opposition, and where they've got to confirm with the officials. I've made that a position on its own. So Michael Carr up in County Durham does that, because he can do it all through email. It's not a problem, and he's spot on with it. He does a great job. But that's a pressure off the secretary, in theory, that he doesn't have that worry. But if he had that, if he were doing it, which every secretary, most secretaries won't probably piece it up, it's part of their responsibility. And then even after you've seen it at full time, even here when Nikes is on comms with you, and then he's rushing to get the scoring on time and things like that.
Sometimes you can't get it in. You can't get it in because the computer's freezing or whatever, and then you're worried about picking up a fine.
Well, yeah, that's it. Correct. So, that's what it is. But it's horrendous what you've got to do. And even, let's not just talk about the clubs here. For as bad as it is for the clubs, and it is bad, seriously, I'm telling you, think about John Deal, the league. He's got emails for every single. He's got to deal with the full league.
Yeah.
Not just the South Division, not just the North Division, and not just the Premier Division, the lot, collectively.
Thankless task.
So it is, and I have a lot of respect for all the secretaries out there, whether they're a league secretary or whether they're a club secretary. And
also, I've noticed reprieve as well. Reprieves for Garstang, one of our friends down at Garstang, and also Nelson, who get a reprieve.
Well, I think all three have had a reprieve, haven't they? So if you think about it, the bottom three have all had a reprieve.
Yeah, because Shelley just had a lateral move. So yeah.
So they've all had a reprieve. So, you know, in terms of it's good news. I mean, who wants to be? You know, it could happen to anybody. You could be down there languishing near the bottom or at the bottom. You know, like I've said, there's no guarantees in this game. It's a tough competition. Let's get it right. And not only is it a tough competition, you know, whether at some point the authorities will really dig deep in this and nail it. But it's no surprise that the teams that start to struggle at the bottom are the teams that haven't got really the finances to kind of throw it at. You know, you look at Geistang, they just avoided relegation last year. You know, when Zach Clark were the manager, you know, it come right down to the last game, and it's the same. It's the same this year. They were down there in a relegation position. But at the end of the day, you know, let's have it right. It's nothing to do. They're a club that really don't have they probably don't pay any expenses. They don't pay anybody probably, or if they do, they might just pay on a win or something. But that's not going to attract you. You know, the better players are. Sorry, we're in a society where, you know, players are just mercenaries. They're mercenaries. They just you know, they'll go for an extra £10 and they don't realise where the bread's buttered and you know, and that's just the way it is, the way of the world. You know, somebody said the other day, you know, here about we need to compete and to win a league, we'll need this and we'll need that and we'll need that. And I went, right, yeah, I'm not saying that we don't, but I'll tell you what, you need to get your blinking hand in your pocket and get some money in. Because to get them players, you look at all the teams that's been successful. Teams have been throwing money on it for. I mean, I'm not taking anything away. Wythenshawe, you only have to look where the final round down at Wythenshawe. I lost a player here that we were building that's been with me from. You know, you've just seen all his record on the North West Counties League. Look how many years he's played at Bacup Borough. Just look at it, right? It shows you there. Now, this player in question, right? He started the season with us. You know, we built a team round him. Start of the season, he scores an hat-trick on here against Chariton. He's flying, and a postage stamp comes in, and then they could speak to him. And then that's the last time we see him, because straight away he's been bankrolled by blinking, you know, I'm talking a lot of money. Well, it is what it is. Now, I'm not here on this show to start saying and bleating and saying, well, you know, people know that it's not. You know what goes on. You know, if everybody stuck to the letter of the law on travelling expenses, then you know it would be an equal playing field. But it's not, because people don't stick to the law and travelling expenses. And I'm not saying that I'm goody two shoes, because I'm not. I'll be honest. It doesn't happen. No. You know, but that's the issue.
That's the nature of the beast, isn't it?
That's the nature of the beast. So you know, if you're not what's the word I'm looking for? If you're not trying to, you have to go with the times. Now, whether the times are to go with them, you have to bend a few rules or whatever in terms of thing. But in this day and age, it's sink or swim, do or die. Because if you don't do, you'll die.
Yeah. But then on the flip side of that, Brent, as well, you can have all the money in the world. We've seen it just down the 66. You can have all the money in the world, but it don't guarantee you're going to get promotion.
Well, it doesn't. Money doesn't. It's football at the end of the day, and money doesn't guarantee anything like that. I mean, you only have to look at Salford. They've thrown money at it over the years, and now they're having to cut the cloth accordingly. And you know, they're languishing near the bottom end of the table. You know, but money doesn't. I mean, talking about the people down the road at the end, you know, they need to. I don't know where all these people come from. Listen, Bury Football Club is a club. When it was Bury Football Club, by the way, when it was free and going out of existence.
Yeah, the real Bury.
The real Bury was a club close to my heart, right? Now then, it's not the real Bury anymore, right? They went. It was sad what happened. They didn't go kind of like into administration or got wound up or anything like that. But they were. Everybody knows it's well documented what happened. Yeah, but it wasn't the real Bury. You again got, because they wanted football in Bury, AFC were formed. Now AFC were formed, so consequently it was a completely new club.
Yeah.
Right. Northwest Counties team. That's it. So, and they'd had a good fan base. And they were there to try and obviously keep the name of Bury and a football club in the town. Then the situation arose because you got split town, because you got the people, right? You got the people who were staunch Bury FC supporters,
yeah,
right? Who had no club. And in their eyes, this is the way I see it, without really delving into the politics, in their eyes, they're thinking that these people who set up AFC Bury shouldn't be putting their energies into AFC Bury. They should put all the money and efforts into trying to resurrect Bury FC.
Yeah, because on paper it was still alive.
It was still alive. I mean, I spoke to a guy, and I'm not going to mention him on here, but he's always tweeting, and he looks like he's a bit sour about what's gone on there. And I spoke to him when he was kind of trying to pull it all together, and I said to him, you know, in my eyes, you know, if you got a good barrister, a good solicitor, you know, you've got, because the rules of the EFL said that Bury FC hadn't been wound up. So because they hadn't been wound up, they could have come back in at the highest level available. They should have still been on the peripheral of the football. So they should have come in at Conference National at least. Yeah. Right? Because the rules stated that. Now, I'm not here to be going on about whether you know, all the ins and outs or whatever, or why they didn't want to do that, because probably to do that, they might have had to pay the debts off, or you know, and they probably couldn't afford to pay the debts off. Or I'm not getting involved in that politics. My point is that what I'm trying to say is, you've got an AFC Bury, right, that set off because they wanted football in the town, right, that were playing like in Bury's colours and everything else, and then you've got an hardcore of Bury FC staunch supporters that had no football club, and they didn't really agree with the Bury AFC, right? So what they did, they got a situation. They felt that these people at Bury AFC should be putting all their energies into Bury SC name and trying to build it up so it's for Bury SC. That didn't happen, and I blame what's going on at the minute with the politics. This is again the FA, the shysters. Honestly, I'm telling you, the shysters, because what they've done, they've made life easy for themselves. And what they've tried to do is say to Bury AFC, who were already established, right, listen, get your heads together and form one club. That's the simple fact. You're already established. They're not established. Now, I'm telling you now, and I'm not here to argue with people, but I'm telling you, if somebody on the Bury FC side would have had the blinking bollocks, basically, to get a top blinking barrister in and fight it, right? They didn't need. They could have made sure that the FA were put under pressure to make sure they come back in as per their rules, because they never went under. It never got wound up. All this started through trying to be wound up because they thought Bury were going to get wound up by the Inland Revenue, and it never happened. No. So basically, what's happened then is, because Bury AFC were already established, and they're like thinking, heck, if another club, if let's say that Bury AFC had followed the rules and they could have come up in an area, that would have thrown cat amongst the pigeons, because they'd had to be a lot of reorganisation. Now, obviously, they're not going to go and tell them. It's up to them to know what the situation is, right? So they've then gone, look, the best thing for you to do is get your heads together and be one club. So if you're one club, you've got a place. You've got a place there. Now, that's where all the issues are coming now, because whatever they've done, they've tried to come together as one club, but they hate each other because
it's not working.
It's not working. They hate each other. Now, my point is, the issue, what I don't like, what's going on, some of these Bury fans, not all of them, AFC fans or whatever, when they're on social media, it's as though they've got a damn given right. They keep thinking they're a Football League club, but they're not a Football League club. There's nothing about them that's a Football League club. The manager's a non-league manager. The players are non-league players, right? The only thing is
the stadium.
The only thing that's anything to do with they've got a proper Football League stadium. So smell the coffee. Stop thinking you're blinking Billy Big Bollocks, because you're not Billy Big Bollocks. You're blinking a non-league club. You're no different than blinking Radcliffe Borough, blinking Bacup Borough, blinking Cone.
Or Kendall.
Exactly. There's nothing about you that you should think that you've got a goddamn given right, because you think you're Bury FC and throwing your nose up at blinking Northwest Counties. Because that's all you are, really. Let's get it right. That's all you are in Northwest Counties club.
Yeah. Because all that does, and what I've seen on socials, every time that rears its head, it just creates a large proportion of non-league supporters who just want to see them fall flat on the face every single week.
Correct. Because they think they've got, I'm not saying nothing about the committees or anything about that, or the team or anything, because players are players. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the fan base that's behind them, that suddenly, when you read stuff on social media, you think, wow, where do they think they are? They're not a football. They've got there's nothing about them that proves anything that they're a Football League club. There's nothing about them. They haven't even, they're all non-league players.
I suppose
with a non-league manager.
I'm going to say, Brent, I suppose it doesn't help when you've got a team just down the road in Ratcliffe Borough who are pulling up trees with Jono and Bernard.
Well,
they've done a great job.
Well, yeah, exactly. They've done a great job, but obviously they'll get a lot of their supporters that'll come, that's filtered into Radcliffe Borough are probably the proper Bury FC fans that don't want any part of Bury AFC.
Yeah. So
and obviously that
multiplied the fan base, haven't they? There.
Yeah. But without getting into the politics, I don't want to go all down that road or anything. But what I will say is exactly what I have said: is that they've got to realise they're not. They are who they are. They are who they are. There's nothing Football League about them.
Yeah. All the best for next season. I'm sure there'll be changes and have another crack at it. What do I want to pick up on? The 23s again.
Okay, just hang on before you say about the 23. Just to finish off on that Bury one, where you said, because we started off about the money. Now, this is another point that I've got, right? It's all right if you've got money, which they've got money because of the fan base. Now, and this has happened to other clubs over years, right? Why, if you've got money, if I see a player, right, this is me now, if I see a player that's done really well in the Northwest Counties and really done well, but I think that player is only like, say, £100 player, but because I've got money, I've got £250 to spend, why would I all of a sudden make him an £175 player?
Well,
because he's not an £175 player, he's an £100 player.
Yeah.
Right, and this is why probably Bury have crashed on have failed. Is because they're probably paying players over the odds, but they're not. They're just Northwest Counties League players, but paying them more on. If they went to any other club bar in Bury, they wouldn't be on anything like what they're on. That's my point. Just because you've got money behind you, you've got to spend that money wisely. So if you can pay somebody a decent wage, you won't go on and inflate a Northwest Counties League player as wage. You won't go and inflate his wage. You go and get a player that's playing at a higher level and pay him, because you know that if he's dropping down into Northwest Counties, he'll eat it, and he'll be worth it by giving him that money. But I think what happens is, and I'm not saying this is just about Bury, but I'm saying that it happens to a lot of clubs where where you've got an ordinary player that's doing all right in the level that you're in, but because they've got money behind them, they'll inflate what they're going to give him. Whereas at most other clubs, they won't get anything like that. And that's where the pressure comes in, because the manager's spending all this money, but he's not getting the end product. And the end product is promotion. And the reason why he's not getting the end product, because them players aren't probably capable of getting promotion, because they're not up to that level.
No, it's an interesting one. Back onto the 23s. I know we mentioned it at the start, but it's quite interesting. Left us a few of us a bit furious. They were, crowned champions away at Darwin on Monday night. They got a trophy, but no medals. What is that all about?
Steve, I just think that was so embarrassing. I thought everything about the night was so... everything.
Before you continue, this was the presentation, Brent. This was the presentation. This is what we're talking about.
Well,
that's what we're talking about. So as you can see, a trophy, a nice table, and no medals.
Well, let's just not talk. Hang on, Steve. Let's not just talk here about the winners here. You've ended up there looking at that video footage, right? You've got the team of losers, young lads, losers who's put their heart and soul in that game, that's got to stand there, right? Stand there and watch the winners go up and receive that cup, which happens in all cup, but they're not getting anything. They're not even getting a runners-up medal.
Nothing.
So they're having to stand there and really what are we stood here for? And just to watch Bacup Borough get presented with that, and we are not even going up for any medals and not being recognised. It's absolutely shambolic, right? It was
embarrassing.
And then our lads go up, and there's not. So the morning after, I'd seen all this, and I were absolutely ripping. In fact, Brian White as well. Our Brian White here, who's getting on in life, and he's actually penned a letter to the league, which I've got to copy and send to the league, because he couldn't get his head round it. Morning after, I'm on the phone to one of the league operators, right? And I've gone, what is the situation? Why have them lads not got a medal? I'm not being funny, right? I know there were a couple of first team lads and they've already got a medal for the Edward Case Cup, but the rest of them didn't have. They have got nothing to prove, right? That they were involved in that cup win, right? They've got nothing to show for it. So I'm using this as an example, right? There's a young lad on there that we feel think really highly of, and with my coaches in Ryan Russell and Alan Taylor and Nigel Langley, he's going to come on leaps and bounds. Now, this kid is 16-year-old, right? He lives in the Rosendale Valley. We're Rosendale Valley senior football team, oldest senior football team in the valley, right? He's represented. He's come off the bench and represented, his team, which is his hometown, basically. His home. When I say town, he's not from Bacup, but the valley, right? He's from the area, basically. He's represented them, and then in 12 months' time, 18 months' time, 2 years or whatever, he hasn't got anything to show that he's represented his town team in a major competition, right? He's got nothing to show for it, and neither are the rest of the lads. Now, that can't be right in my eyes. That's scandalous. So the morning after, I'm ringing one of the organisers. Why were there no medals? So I'm getting all this waffle going on, which didn't surprise me with the person in question, right? Waffle about since COVID, money's tight, hang on, money's tight everywhere. Get off your ass and get a sponsor. Go out there, get one. You can't have competitions. We know medals. There's a school across road here, right, at every age group. And whenever they win anything or do anything, whether it be netball, whether it be cricket, whether it be football, whether it be blinking badminton, whatever it is, what they do over there is always, this is a school, will always present the winners with something. And this league,
I counted about 120 in that stadium on Monday night at £5 a throw. So there's your trophies and your medals.
Well, exactly. You know, and the embarrassing thing is, this is another one. It was just like it's an afterthought. How must that be? So not only that, let's just cut away from the chase here, right? Not only that these lads didn't get any medals. I mean, they will get medals. I mean, I've been. Would you believe? It's funny because I've ordered something today for them, and I'm personally going to pay for them because they will get medals. I'm not having anybody from my club not getting medals. That's ridiculous, right? But the fact of the matter is, right? Just look at half time. Bury they've won a league, and they've presented them in front of all the breakup fans. No Bury fans there, you know, they've presented them in front of all the breakup fans. The Bury players have had to come out and get and obviously we've got to listen. Not that there's any problem, and we show our appreciation. You know, well done, lads. But the point of the matter is that the right place to do a blinking cup presentation? They're not even playing. So if they've been told to turn up at Darwin, they're not even involved. Surely to goodness, if you're going to do a presentation and you want to do it at half time, why do you not do it in the blinking clubhouse where it's a bit more? You know, it's a nice clubhouse where you just, you do it properly. Instead, he's tried to shut all the stand down. You know, ladies and gentlemen, just shut up a minute. Here we've got the league champions here. You know, they've done really well. It's Bury Football Club. Put your hands together. Everybody's like, what? What you know about? You're not even interested in bloody Bury Football Club. You get me? It was just absolutely chaos.
It were absolute shambles. And if that weren't bad enough, let's move away from Bake-Up for a second. Last night, Cone FC were crowned champions. We needed to win by 10 clear goals for them not to win. So it was a cert that they would be crowned champions last night. Nobody's turned up from the league. No trophy. No presentation. No, nothing.
It was honestly
car crash.
Their coach said to me after, and I get it, I was so embarrassed that I couldn't walk into the changing room at full time with the lads because I didn't know what to say to them. But it's right, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, and they're there in front.
The coach be feeling like that.
It's wrong. And it's crazy. So why has nobody turned up last night? Because it was obvious. Listen, it's a drive. I mean, me and Paul Weller have been on Radio Lancashire. Paul Weller's the Corn FC first team manager. We flew back. We drove back from Blackburn. He followed me all the way back to Bake-Up, parked in the school because it were busy. Parked in the school, got back on, watched the game. You know, why can't somebody from the league? You know, even if the league, well, they'd have to come with a trophy. But what I'm trying to say is why somebody not come with the league from the league and just presented this trophy, even if he's got to take it back off them after for engraving or whatever, right, and present it. You know, it's just so shambolic, and I couldn't believe it because, in my opinion, it costs us nothing at all to be professional. We try to be professional with you know, as much as we can. And yeah, we sometimes let our guard down on one or two things, but we do everything we try to do, even with this show and everything. We try to be. You're on the show and you're making sure that I'm sat in the right place and everything's right and my head's not where it should be and everything else.
And you're sounding okay.
And I'm sounding okay because you're a professional and you want it right. So these people, you know, the under-23 League Cup winners, which is Bake-Up, the other night at Darwin, you know, they needed recognising with medals. Ashton Town, let's give them credit. They needed recognising as being worthy finalists. and come as runners up. So they didn't get anything. They had to stand there and endure, the pain of watching their opponent.
The thumbs up the backside while we went up for a trophy.
Yeah, honestly, and I just think, who's responsible for that? Surely somebody. I have my own opinions, but I'm not going to say them on here because it won't be right. But I just think that the hierarchy, because don't forget, this league originally started with the Lancashire Football Association, and it was handed to the people that had the Lancashire League, right? The old Lancashire League, where football league clubs used to participate in. Now, the people who were the secretary of the league is a lovely man, and even the chairman of the league is a lovely man. But they're obviously getting on, and I think what they've got, I might be wrong, but I think they've got an operating committee, or that committee might be one person that kind of, because they're getting on late in life and everything else, he's kind of being the main operator. But the main operator, there's got to be some blinking serious rethink about that, because that is totally embarrassing. It can't happen.
Well, it can't happen. The fact, Brent, you look at the leagues. I've looked at it was great that we went into that league. We were in another league previous, but went in this league. There's some fantastic clubs in this league. Clitheroe, Colne, Macclesfield Town, Fulwood Amateurs, all well-run clubs. Come on, play
100%,
the game.
100%. Honestly, I couldn't believe what I was witnessing. Couldn't believe it. And I hadn't even said anything to Brian. I mean, morning after, straight away, I've got on the phone to the person in question and asked the question, why? And I said, I put things, and he said, well, we've got a meeting next week. Well, these points will bring up. Well, hang on. It's a cup finals. Whatever cup finals you've got, you need the trophy for the winners, and you need the blinking medals for the winners, and you need medals for the runners up.
It's almost seen. It's compulsory.
It should be, yeah, exactly.
It happens in all trophy. You go to FA Cup final and see no one get a medal.
It's carnage. It's carnage. Honestly. And it was embarrassing, and I'm sorry, but Bacup Borough, them players are definitely I'll get what they deserve. They'll get medals to look back on that, to look back on the occasion. And when they put, I've got a trophy cabinet at home, got loads of it, but you look back on things. You look back, you can look back. So, I remember that when I were at Bacup Borough, I was like 19-year-old, 17-year-old, 16-year-old. That was my first major trophy. We're a senior team.
Yeah.
But they've got nothing to look back on.
Nothing. Well, before we move on, we're going to move on. But before we do, let's have a look at the goals.
Keep the ball.
Yeah, good goals. Well made.
From the lads.
Yeah, well made. Good goals.
And a double for the club, which is great.
I mean, Lewis were a kick. Lewis were a bit, after the game because he didn't get on the score sheet. But listen, that ball that he put across for first goal, I'm not being funny.
You'd have got that.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. It were on the money, weren't it? But you only had to just connect with it, and it's going in. It rolling the cross. It were great, and the finishes were good, and they were all like well taken goals, and listen, it's like anything. The first probably 10, 15 minutes getting on, playing on a 3G, 4G pitch, and getting used to the bounce. Ashton, they scored early on, and they were the better side at that point. But once after the first quarter of the game, and they settled down and got into it, I just felt they were only, they were fully deserved winners in the end. And I've got to give credit to Ryan Russell on this, because let's be honest, at the end of last season and at the start of this season, they didn't start well. They don't start well September. And what happened were, I weren't happy with how it were being run last season. It weren't what I wanted at the end of the day. And I felt that, Ryan Russell, he's a good lad in terms of, he's kind of setting off, if you will, in the game. And he's got a lot to offer. And I look back when, I needed to be given a chance, and I kind of spoke to him and I said, do you fancy, you'll still do your job with what you do with the first team? And the thing is about us at Bacup Borough, it's not everybody trains together. We're all together. Yeah. We don't split it and say they train on another night to the senior team. That doesn't happen. That's why there's such a good togetherness at the club, And I kind of pulled him. I said, it won't affect your work that you're doing with a senior team. I said, but do you fancy taking that on board? It's something you'll be able to get your teeth into. And he embraced the challenge, and he's done. To be fair, he's done well. Yeah, we've helped him out, or I've helped him out as much as I could help him out. We players coming back from injury, or first team players coming back from injury, because he only had a small base of players, if you will. So he had this small base of players. I mean, and the other thing were, from the season before, when I say I weren't right happy, I were happy because Nigel had the group, but then Nigel stepped up to the first team, and there were no. With other things that Nigel's got to do, there were no chance of Nigel being able to kind of commit to both. So something I had to give, so that it opened the door for Ryan. But because the season had already started, in theory, what we had to do, he only had a minimum base of players to work with. So we had to kind of, where we could, help him out and give him some. First team players that were coming back from injury, coming back from suspension, to fill the team up. But he's done well with that, because he's had to have different. He's not getting the settled side doing that, but his aim now is going forward that, and he's got all summer to do that. Is we'll be recruiting, and he'll be recruiting, and. Hopefully he'll have a good base to work, a good base of young players to work with, to develop. So he won't be taking. Yeah, we'll still use first team players in it. We have to do, because we want something that they can have games if they're coming back from an injury, just to try and make sure they're fit, or coming back from suspension. But in the main, he's got a challenge on his hands now, and. Hopefully he'll embrace it, and I'm sure he will. And he's got good support now, because Alan Taylor came in partway through the season, just before Christmas, I think it were, that when Alan came on board, and he's a terrific coach as well. So between them, and then they'll be able to develop some very, very good, talented lads, which is going to be good for me, because I'm a manager that will always, if I like what I see, I will always give young lads which have proved an opportunity, and it's up to them to take it. So there is a pathway there, and then I've got to give Andy Pilling credit as well, whereas he let the coaches coach, let them coach the players, but somebody's got to be at back of the team doing all the administration for them. And Andy's, committed and done a fantastic job with that. So the three of them, between them, but obviously the biggest credit goes to Ryan, because he's had them from the beginning, and it's good. And I've seen it, and rightly so. I've seen his tweet earlier on where he's put 2 years at Bacup, 4 trophies. and he's right. You know, he's been involved with 4 trophies, and deserves a lot of credit.
Last point for the show. Been spoken about quite a bit on socials, and Wolves have brought it to the table of the Premier League. VAR. What do you make of it? Clubs want rid of it, some don't. What's your opinion on this?
Are you asking me, do I want rid of it, or are you asking me, do I think they'll get rid of it?
Well, both. Go on, answer both. First of all, what do you think? What would you do?
Well, having seen what a farce it's been and what a farce it is in terms of, I think Eddie Howe hit the nail on the head the other night in his interview, and I kind of agree with that when he said it needs going, but I'd like it to keep it for offsides.
Right.
Because he's probably got a point with that, but that toenail business and all that needs going. It's embarrassing.
Why don't we just go back to if there's daylight between them, then he's offside.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, look, I don't like it because the reason I don't like it because you're watching Premier League football. I think. Well, there's a few reasons why I don't like it. I can't understand in the life in me that if you're a Premier League club, you've got VAR, so you've got to put up with VAR. If you get drawn in a cup competition, in an FA Cup, away from home against a team in the Championship or the blinking Division 1 or Division 2, you don't have it. There's no VAR. It's all, to me, it's all or nothing. Yeah. Well, how can that be right? You know, they'll probably say, "Oh, there's a lot of money towards it. It's costs and all that." But hang on, well, don't have it then. Simple as, don't have it because you've got all the other divisions don't have it. And like I said, if you draw a Premiership club, so if you're like, say, I don't know, if you're Reading and you get drawn at blinking Manchester United away, you're going to end up with a VAR situation. But if it goes in reverse, you're not going to have a VAR situation. It's mind blowing. It's boggling. It's ridiculous. That's one point. And the next point is when you're at a game, you know, let's be honest. We all watch football. We love it. The excitement, and we're on the end of your seats, and somebody scores an absolute fantastic goal, and then there's something in the referee's ear that said that something's happened in the build-up to this fantastic goal, so everything stops. We'll watch the screen. It's now on countdown, and it's gone like nearly a minute and a half, and then they go, "Oh, big screen, right, goal." But you've lost you've
killed the atmosphere.
It killed the atmosphere, and it's wrong. And I just think, listen, I know that the referees have always got issues and had pelters, but I would prefer, I'm old school, and I would prefer for referees, like it's always been, like the game was presented to us with the refereeing the game, right? Yeah. If he makes a mistake and you think it should have been disallowed, it weren't a penalty, but he's given a penalty, you're always going to have that in football. It's the same as if, you know, somebody thinks that Joe Bloggs should be playing. Somebody will say, well, I don't think he should be playing. You know, you're always going to have those opinions.
But it gave us something to talk about, didn't it? Give us something to talk about on a Monday morning.
Yeah.
In the workplace, you know, for good or for bad, that's what we loved.
Yeah, correct. And and the other thing, what I think, and it's always been a bone of contention with me, I think they should let the referees go back and referee the game, right? And we'll all have a bit of a pop at the referee. It goes without saying it happens, right? But I always think that referees, I blame in a lot of ways the powers that be with referees, because it's how they're being portrayed and how they go out. For me, and I've said this, and it's something I said last night, in a changing room, as a manager in a changing room, you're dealing with 22 players, or in your squad, 22 players. You're dealing with. Those players aren't 22 choir boys.
No.
They're all of different characteristics. You know, street kids, blinking, you know, away from football club, they're blinking do whatever they do. Do you get me?
Yeah.
Right. So they're all different characteristics. Now, a manager has to manage, and he has to treat people in different ways, right? Now, the simple fact is, if he's got to manage people in different ways because they're different characters, and if you show weakness in a changing room with anybody, right? Weakness, you'll get slaughtered. You've got no chance. You lose a changing room because you can't show weakness. Simple, right? Now then, the issue is with these kids coming into football today. I mean, I saw a situation. I'm not going to mention anybody's name, but I've seen a situation on here in a charity game on Sunday. I was stood right behind the goals, and I witnessed everything. Now, there's a player playing in this charity game, right, called Barry Massey. Big lad, big unit. Used to play for me. He's played for quite a lot of clubs around Bamber Bridge, you know. He's kind of a non-league legend player, right? But he's a big unit, right? And he's playing in this game, and the referee who was refereeing the game on the first incident gave a penalty. It was never a penalty. He never touched him. He's like back and gone down on the floor. The ref has given a penalty. Barry was so incensed with this penalty. He's obviously having a blinking. But you've got to remember, he's a powerful figure. He's not. He had his photo took with me before the game, right? You'll have seen it. Yeah, that's a powerful figure. But he was so mad that he gave this penalty, and they're playing to win, even though it's a charity game. They're playing to win, right? Massively. So the next thing that happens, within about 6 minutes, he's actually deliberately smacked this lad with his elbow, right? And he's gone down. So he's given another penalty. But it were a penalty this time. The second one was a penalty. The first one wasn't a penalty. But Barry was so incensed, and it's kicking off. It's kicking off to the point that what's happened is, I don't know, I'm not on the pitch, but when the game finished, right, the referee in question has gone to Deborah, who was stood near the and it was Deborah that got this referee in, by the way, and she was stood near the changing rooms, right, near the dugouts, and he's come round when he's coming off the pitch, and he's basically said, don't ever ask me. And she's telling me that he was literally shaking. Don't ask me to referee games like this again. I don't want to referee a game like this again. It was embarrassing. It's this, that, and the other. They were going for each other. This, that, and I didn't see that. So the next thing he's done, when he's got changed, he's come round and stood near me at the end, and before he's gone behind the goals, and he's basically said the same to me. You know what I've said to him straight away? Grow a pair of balls. Yeah. Simple. You can't have that. You've got to stand up to people. You're the man in the middle. You can't show weakness. You've got to stand up to them, is my point. You know, and say, it don't matter how big they are or how blinking intimidating they are, you have to stand up. And my point is, this referees in our league, and he's a good lad. To be honest, he is a very, very good lad. But for me, you know, there's too many lads like the lad that I'm talking about, right? Yeah. Whereas an old school referee, they wouldn't put up with that. They wouldn't be intimidated by that. They deal with it how they do.
They can adapt to different situations that take place on a pitch.
Yeah. So my point being, coming back to the VAR situation, I honestly think that we go back to how football used to be. Let the referees and officials referee the game. I mean, I'll give you a prime example. Our cup final, right? Yeah. Our cup final. There's no VAR, no nothing, right? If you spoke to Mason Walker immediately after his incident, he would say, I never touched him. And people would probably, who didn't see it clearly, go, no, I didn't think you touched him. I didn't see it. But I had a clear view. From the technical area, I had a clear view. He's come out to the ruck of players and he's laid a glove on the player.
Yeah.
I've seen it. I knew he was walking.
What did the fourth official?
And the fourth official's walked round because he's seen it. The only thing I said, why are you getting involved? You're busy.
He's eyes and ears for the referee on the pitch.
But exactly, but that's his job. I'm having a bit of a pop at him. Why you got involved in that?
VAR.
Yeah, you get me. So yeah, exactly. But have we kicked off about it? We've lost our goalkeeper, which could have cost us the game. So my point being, there's no VAR. We've got to accept the talking point after. Some people would say Mason never touched him. No, he shouldn't have got sent off. It was a poor do that. The referee should never have sent him off. But I've got to say here, as true as the day is long, he put a glove on him. You can't do it. So we know VAR. I'm 100% behind the officials.
And how well did that referee, old school, he let it flow. There were a lot of strong tackles flying in, and he let the game flow. So that was an old school referee.
Well, he said it in the pre-match talk with me and Michael Gervin and their captain and their manager. He said, anything in the middle of the park, pulling, shoving, making bits of things, I'm going to let it go because I'm going to let the game flow. He said, when it's getting near the box or anything like that, I'm telling you, I'll start pulling up and dealing with it. I thought I thought the officials had an excellent game. But my point being, this is my point. Get back to that, right? And I think one of the biggest problems why referees are intimidated and have got a problem in the Football League is because Sky employ people, whether it be Carragher, Neville, Roy Keane, or anybody, whoever all these pundits are, and what they're doing, they want controversy. So they're bringing up and saying, can we just have a look at this again? Do you think the referee got this right? Let's have a look at it from this angle. Do you think? No, I think it's this. So thousands of people are all listening to that, and that's where people start getting on the backs of referees. I think what should be happening, they need to fire VAR off, get rid of it, go back to old school refereeing, and send out a blinking. I know they put blinking millions into football, but it should be a criteria where they can talk about a player, they can talk about a bad goal being given away, they can talk about a manager, they can talk about a coach, they can talk about anything they want, but they have not got to scrutinise the performance of a referee.
Don't put unnecessary pressure on a referee.
And if they don't do that and they don't talk about referees, eventually referees will be there to be seen and not heard.
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
And that's my point.
Strip it back and take it back.
The reason why they're under pressure is for that reason, because it's all about the referee after the game, and anything to do with it's all about the referee. Did he get it right?
So moving on then, what do you believe the Premier League will do? The clubs, I mean. You think they'll want to keep it?
It's a difficult question, that, isn't it? Because obviously your clubs that's been hurt by it, they're going to go against it. Like Wolves have brought it up, but other clubs that's gained by it, are they going to think?
It always seems to be clubs in the lower regions of the Premier League that seem to suffer the most, though.
I know the big clubs seem to. I get it.
They're right.
I don't know. I'm hoping that they'll vote against it.
I do.
It needs firing off.
Get it back to where it'd be interesting if we during the summer, if we can get our friend, bring him on, Keith Hackett. We can pick up on this subject because Keith's very vocal on socials and he is absolutely on the money always with refereeing.
I agree.
Discussions.
I agree.
So what are you doing this weekend, sir?
There's a big charity game on here on Saturday. There's no rest for me. Ginger Art Foundation. They'll be busy on here tomorrow. Well, if the weather's nice, it will. So my day's mapped out. Unfortunately, I'd like to be at a football match because the season hasn't finished. But unfortunately, I've got to be around here working as usual. Yeah, and that's it. And so there's no rest.
Just so I remembered, talking about always working. Nigel Langley were at a trials game, wasn't he, at Scotland? Was it yesterday?
I should have been going with Nigel. I were due to go. Nigel were going, and his dad. Obviously, his dad's in the pro game, and he were going. We're all going. But on the morning, I had that much going on, and the issue were, there were a lot going on, and I had a driver that had a bit of a problem because his partner had been in hospital all night. So sadly, I had to pull out, but it didn't matter because Nigel were there with his dad, and we were just having a look at its exit trials. People that's got released from football league clubs and that are looking for opportunities. So you could go there to get showcased, and anybody that you fancy, you can get in touch with them and show an interest and start the ball rolling in terms of trying to get them in your stable. It's good. It's something that's backed by the PFA, because obviously there's lots and lots and lots of players get released at this time of the year, and there's not enough clubs for them. And they will, whilst everybody will be striving to stay in the football league, it doesn't happen. They go out of the football league. So yeah, that's where Nigel were on Thursday. And his dad. So interesting.
Excellent. Great show as always, Brent. Enjoy your weekend and give those trophies a bit of a polish.
Yeah, they will get a polish, don't you worry.
See you later.
See you, Paul.